Hello friends, again I am today before you with the model answer, the case study which was given yesterday. Now let us see what was the case study and what can be the answer for that. Now if you remember, the case study was a trans woman civil servant seeks maternity leave after adoption. Existing norms do not allow it. How do you reconcile equity, law and institutional change? So this is basically case study. Now, let us see what are the various ethical and legal dilemmas and issues involved. Then, what can be the course of action? Then, from which ethical theories we get support for that course of action? And then finally, we have to conclude. Now, since earlier also I have told, wherever legal issues or constitutional issues come up, there we have to quote Supreme Court cases also if relevant cases are available. So this case also is like that because here legal dilemmas are there. So therefore we have to, our constitutional issues also will be involved. Some articles of constitution also we will have to quote. So accordingly, the cases from Supreme Court also needs to be quoted. So this is the thing which I just want to tell you. Besides that, definitely your language has to be ethical. Ethical words and phrases have to be used. Ethical theories have to be used in support. And documents also, ethical documents or ethical reports, for example, Nolan Committee or ARC report, and such other reports also can be quoted. So now let us start what can be the answer. Now, what are the ethical and legal dilemmas? Let us understand that. Now, first is equity versus rule-bound administration. So here, uh, there is no rule for sanctioning such leave, but then the issue of equity is involved. So equity versus rule-bound administration, this is a important ethical dilemma. Denying leave may be legally defensible under rigid interpretation, but fails the test of substantive equality under Article 14. So here we are quoting Article 14 of Constitution, right to equality. Then second issue is gender identity and parenthood. The Transgender Persons Protection of Rights Act 2019 mandates equal treatment in public employment and prohibits discrimination. So this is again a act of the parliament which we are quoting. Then right to dignity and family life. This is another issue involved. Article 21. This is right to life and right to live life with dignity. Guarantees the right to life, dignity and family. Rights not confined to transgender norms. Now, next is administrative discretion and institutional precedent. Now, lack of explicit rules should not justify exclusion in the face of constitutional values. So, constitutional values do support that you should give leave, but since there is a rigid rule that leave should not be granted for such kind of adoption child, then I mean that is the basic dilemma. Now, what are various Supreme Court judgments which we are quoting here, particularly with respect to transgenders? Nalsa versus Union of India, this is 2014 case, recognized transgender persons as third gender with full constitutional protection, including employment and dignity. Navtej Singh Johar versus Union of India, this is 2018 case, affirmed the autonomy, privacy, and dignity of LGBT individuals as integral to Article 21. Then another case of recent case 2022, Deepika Singh versus Central Administrative Tribunal, emphasized that family must be interpreted inclusively beyond rigid biological or gender norms. So these are the cases which support one kind of decision. Now, what are the ethical frameworks which are very relevant here? Let us see that also. First is Rawlsian justice from John Rawls. Institutions must correct structural exclusions to ensure fairness for the most vulnerable. So justice for most vulnerable is, justice theory of Rawls. So that we are quoting here. Then deontology of Kant, upholding the duty to constitutional morality outweighs mechanical adherence to outdated rules. So this is again another ethical theory which we have to quote. Then virtue ethics, compassion, courage, and fairness demand an inclusive administrative response. Then now let us see what can be the course of action based on these constitutional provisions, based on these Supreme Court cases, as well as these theories of justice. First is grant leave under equitable interpretation. So extended adoption leave as a gender neutral right supported by the spirit of constitutional equality. So therefore, on this basis, leave has to be granted. Second point is invoke administrative discretion. Cite precedents where adoptive leaves was granted to single or male parents, reinforcing parity. So, I mean, we have to treat everybody equally. So accordingly, it has to be treated. Third is escalate for policy revision. As has been told in the case study itself, there is no such rule, or rule is very rigid, not covering this case. So this has to be escalated to DOPT or concerned relevant ministry that service rules be amended to explicitly include transgender persons under maternity or adoption leave benefits. So that kind of recommendation can be given so that at least in future, such problems do not come once the rules are amended. Then ensure due process, document your decision, citing constitutional provisions and judicial precedents to safeguard both justice and institutional integrity. So due process here means you have to give a speaking kind of order. The order has to be speaking, citing all kinds of provisions, whether it is court cases, whether it is constitutional provisions or ethical theories, and then leave has to be granted. Now, in conclusion, equity is not about identical treatment, but contextual fairness. In a constitutional democracy, civil servants are not just rule enforcers, but custodians of transformative justice. Granting maternity leave to the trans woman adoptive parent is not an exception. It is a necessary but act of ethical and legal inclusion. An act of ethical and legal inclusion that affirms the soul of the Constitution. So basically, we are concluding the whole, I mean, whatever we have written till now, the whole answer, we are concluding in a very few words. Of course, these words are using ethical phrases and ethical terminology just to finally conclude in a very positive and futuristic manner. Now, let us see, I mean, this completes the case study. Now, let us see what question we will be taking up tomorrow. So, the question will be, for tomorrow will be, how can emotional intelligence be developed and assessed in civil servants? Suggest institutional strategies in 150 words. I will read it once again. How can emotional intelligence be developed and assessed in civil servants? Suggest institutional strategies in 150 words. Now, model answer for this question we will be providing tomorrow. We'll be discussing and then giving the model answer. So thanks a lot for watching today's video. We'll meet again tomorrow for the model answer of today's question. So thank you one and all.